Learn all about living in Merida, Mexico from Leroy Osmon in this video interview with expats in Mexico. So how long have you guys lived in Merida?
Well, we bought our first house here in 1996, and it was a beach house. And we came down here with a friend that was terminally ill who wanted to see Yucatan. I had no interest or knowledge really of Yucatan. My wife knew about the Maya ruins. And we just kind of fell in love with the place. That was in Thanksgiving, November of '95. And then when my friend passed away in the spring of '96, we organized a concert here with some of the local musicians. And then I brought 30-something musicians from Houston. We did a all Mozart concert in honor of Tom Easton, who was my very dear friend and assistant. And there was an American here that invited the musicians out to a hotel at the beach, all you can eat and drink for $35. And he said, who wants to do that? Obviously, he didn't know musicians that well. $35, all you can eat and drink, everybody was in. So we went out, and he just, in passing, said, I have a house here in this little town of Telchac. You want to see it? We went to see it. As we're driving up, he said, it's for sale. Miami-Dade was interested, and he offered me $18,000. And he said, but I want to sell it to a musician to help build a classical music scene. He said, will you give me $5,000? So we literally went to the American Express office the next day, took out the money on my American Express card, and bought a house.
I know the city is very famous for a lot of its old colonial structures, and
Yes.
a lot of expats have purchased homes there for done wonderful remodeling jobs and so forth. But yours is a fairly new. Is it a contemporary home or?
Yes, it's a contemporary home.
Uh-huh.
It belonged to a federal judge. It has an incredible security system. So, it's I would say average size house. It's 4-bedroom, 4.5 bath, and has a pool and 3-car garage. So it's a nice size house. A little bit large for 2 people and 3 cats.
Well, and you say an average size house. With that size of house, that's a very large house. It's like over 4,000 square feet, or?
Well, yeah, thereabouts. But the old colonials you're talking about, many of those in the center of the city, in the old center, they're 3-4 times the size of this. Because I sell real estate with Mexico International, and I've showed clients today, old colonials, a couple from Los Angeles looking to move here, and we looked at properties that were more than 800 square meters. That's a really big property.
So that's probably what, over 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math on it, or let the computer do the math. But it's big, and we looked at properties like that, and those old properties are selling. The range that we looked at today was between 155,000 US dollars. That was an 800 square meter property.
Wow, that's really...
Yeah. Amazing garden. And the house needed modest restoration. And then we looked at properties all the way up to the most expensive we looked at was $319,000. And it covered approximately 1/2 of a block.
Is there a fairly large and vibrant expat community there?
There's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 in the entire Yucatan state and peninsula. There's quite a few in Centro, but there's also quite a few on the beach, too. The beach is about 25 minutes from my house.
So as the city, basically, they have northern suburbs that are actually beach towns. Is that correct?
Far northern suburbs, yeah. The beach is, I believe 18 miles from the Centro.
Mm-hmm. Have you been in most of the states of Mexico?
Only on the only on the Gulf of Mexico side.
So Puerto Vallarta and
No,
Mazatlan and
that's all
none
on
of the western cities. Okay.
never had an interest to go there, and I just don't have the interest there.
Hmm.
I like well, I don't have an interest really to go anywhere other than Yucatan.
Oh.
I just soon just stay here, and I have to travel for concerts, but I'm very happy just staying here. And fact is, we go to the States for a week for a concert performance or something, and both of us were in the States for a couple days. We're ready to come home.
So you really love Mexico.
This this is where I would live, no matter how much money I had or wherever I could afford to live. This is where I would live.
What are the top three things you love about living in Mexico?
Never gets cold. Never gets cold. And I'm getting coached, by the way. And my wife just popped up from her computer, and when you said Mexico, and she said Yucatan. The people of Yucatan, and I'll get back to the other two, but the people of Yucatan, Yucatan was its own state several times, own country. It's several times, own country. Much like Texas, it's been under several flags. And the Yucatecans consider themselves first and foremost Yucatecans, not Mexicans. And just kind of like people from Texas, you ask them where they're from. If you're in a foreign country, they won't ever say United States. They'll say Texas. And the Yucatecans will not say Mexico. They'll say Yucatan. So they're very proud of this part of the world. But in addition to the weather, heavy jackets and boots and hats and everything. But, those of us who are from the other side of the Gulf of Mexico think it's just like absolutely wonderful. But I do love the weather. The other thing I love about it, and this will be a kind of a strange one, it's really flat. And I didn't appreciate that the first time I lived in Yucatan, but I did appreciate it after I lived in the mountains in Jalapa, where everything is up or down. And you get to a certain age and flat is good. So I thoroughly enjoy the terrain. And because it's flat, it's easy to get around. The city can expand to the north side all the way to the city of Progreso, 18 miles from here. It's a very easy, accessible city. And then the other thing that I absolutely love about Yucatan is the people. The people here are of the Maya culture and not the Aztec culture. And it's a very different culture. I grew up in East Texas, mainly Houston, and most of the Mexicans and Mexican Americans that we knew there were all from the northern part of Mexico. They're tall and somewhat traditional, what we would look at and say, oh, they look like they're Mexican. But the people of Yucatan are short. They're a bit rounder than the people from the north. They have a complete different cuisine. They speak Spanish, but many people here speak Maya. It's not uncommon to go to the small villages outside of Merida, and you'll still hear Maya. It's not uncommon to hire workers to work, albañiles, cement workers, to work in your house doing a little work or something, and to hear them converse back and forth in Maya. And I'm sure they probably do that in part so that the people who only speak Spanish around them won't know what they're talking about, but also in part because they're comfortable with that. Because if they grew up in a small village, they probably grew up learning Maya first.
And the proximity to many of the Maya historical sites is quite close, right?
Well, 10 minutes from our house is Zabilchaltun. So that's the closest, and it's one of the longest, what's the proper way to say it? The Maya lived there at that site longer than pretty much any other site in this area. But in an hour and 20 minutes, you can be at Uxmal. In just under 2 hours, you can be at Chichen Itza. And there are just almost literally hundreds of other sites in the area.
What about culture? What the symphonies and
Oh my goodness. Well, when we first moved here, there wasn't a symphony. There were a couple of small chamber orchestras, but now we have the Symphony Orchestra de Yucatan. We have the chamber orchestra at the University de Yucatan, known as Wadi. And it's made up of the majority of it's a string orchestra. The majority of the members are from the symphony. We have a municipal orchestra. The majority of the members of it are now from the symphony. We have at least a dozen, maybe even 24 chamber organizations, everything from string quartets to woodwind quartets to brass ensembles. We have a huge brass festival here. We have jazz festivals. We have dance companies. We have an opera company. It's not full time, but we do at least one opera a year with the symphony. One of my other jobs, I do 3 jobs: composer, real estate. My other job is I'm director of musical activities for the Hacienda Chicanatun. And Chicanatun does a concert series October through May, 2 concerts a month. We use people from the symphony, so they're high-quality chamber music concerts. Actually, our first concert's tomorrow night with a Quavada String Quartet doing a concert tour of Europe with pieces highlighting the different countries of Europe. So there's so much in just the music scene. And then the dance scene, we have several contemporary dance companies. We have a chorus. Then we have more museums than you could possibly imagine, art museums. We have the big Maya Museum that just opened a couple of years ago. Like I said, there are jazz, but there's a lot of jazz festivals outside of the city also. You have the big jazz festival in the city. We have the International Music Festival, which features musicians. Every year they kind of feature a different country, or Japan or China or something. Well, you know, we're about 1.2 million people.
That's remarkable for a city that size.
Yeah, it's a big city. It actually is a big city. I mean, we cover a huge land area because we're so flat. You can just keep building and building. We don't really have high rises. That's kind of the new thing in the past few years. We have condos going up. The Yucatecans here, they think it's very strange. They say, I'm not interested in living in the sky. I want to live on the ground, not in the sky. So when we have condos for sale, they're almost exclusively people from Mexico City, United States, or Canada. It's a really interesting place, and we have just great fresh fruit. I'd have to add a 4th thing on there. The fruit here is just amazing.
And the restaurant scene is excellent?
Pardon me?
The restaurant scene is excellent?
Oh, goodness, yes. It wasn't that way 21 years ago when we first came here. But now you have everything from Lebanese to traditional to all kinds of Italian, wonderful Korean, Thai restaurants, bistro, French restaurants, the Bistro Cultural, which I went to today with my clients. There's just, you name it, we pretty much have it.
It sounds like the city is quite an international center.
It absolutely is. And we have an international airport, which is 20 minutes from downtown. So it's easy to fly in here. You can fly direct from Houston, from Miami, and a few other locations. There used to be a American airline to Dallas, but that was canceled, but they're supposed to start it up again. We have a high season, and that's December through April. And during the high season, you get more direct flights. We have direct flight to Miami with Aeromexico and American Airlines. You have United direct flight every day to Houston, and we will have the direct flight from Dallas back again with American supposedly in December. Also, it's a short trip to Cancun from here. So you can take the bus, the Adeo first class bus, over to Cancun, fly anywhere in the world directly out of Cancun. Another interesting thing that I do enjoy about living here is that we don't have any pollution. We don't have any industry.
What's the cost of living like there?
Yeah. Cost of living is extremely low in Yucatan, and we have every possible convenience. I mean, we have more shopping malls than I can probably even count and remember, and another one being built, the largest mall, they say the largest or one of the largest in the country, will be open in, the first part of it will be open in March. We have the largest Costco in the country. We just opened our fourth Sam's Club, 6 Walmarts. They're building 4 more Walmarts. Not that that's anything to be, cheering about particularly, but it's just the growth. We have huge Mexican chains like Chedraui, Mega, Soriana.
Because of your fluency in Spanish, you have quite a few Mexican friends as opposed to just living within the bubble of the expat community, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. If I wanted to live within that bubble of expat, I would live in Centro, or I would live at, of all the beach areas, there are 2 that are very densely populated with North Americans, including Canadians. One other interesting aspect of Yucatan that I think is worth talking about is that we have the lowest crime rate of any city of 1 million people in all of North America, not just Mexico, all of North America. You can check that, you can Google that, and you'll find that to be true. With a city of 1 million people, we average less than 10, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 murders a year. I mean, when you think about it, what is there not to like? You're safe. You can walk anywhere at night. I mean, my wife could leave the house here at 2 o'clock in the morning, walk around the neighborhood, and nobody's going to bother her. Now, if you go to the far, far south side of town, that's where the poor people live. The crime rate there of petty crime is much higher. Mm-hmm. But for serious crime, it just doesn't exist in the city anywhere. Murder, particularly, does not exist in the city to almost to any statistical amount. It's such a small amount. It's a blip on the screen. So you've got safety. You've got fresh air. Mm-hmm. In less than 30 minutes, you can be at the beach and walking on the beach, or like my wife does, down to her sailboat and go sailing. So you've got that. If you like culture, you've got museums, you've got music, you've got dance, you've got something every night going on. One of the parks in Centro has a big band 2 nights a week. Big band doing Glenn Miller, doing stuff from the 40s and stuff. And they are paid for by the city. And people come, couples, older couples, my age and older, mm-hmm. and they go and they just dance. They've got a big area for people to dance to big band music.
That's wonderful.
You've got all of these sort of things, wonderful foods, convenient shopping, everything from now we're on the north side, we've got all these truck chefs. That's the hottest thing now. We've got about 25 or 30 trucks that travel all over the north area, and they're set up in different parts of the city. And truck chefs. Oh, yeah, my wife said you didn't mention Star Medica. We have health care that's unbelievable. We have Star Medica Hospital, which is one of 3 hospitals certified in the country to treat the President of the United States. And it has full certification from the World Health Organization. 100% full certification, which very few hospitals in this entire country can say that. We have outstanding cancer treatment, multiple sclerosis treatment. My wife and I used to own Healthcare Services International, and it was a company that brought people from the United States and Canada here for medical tourism.
Mm-hmm.
So we love it. And then we're both over 60, so we're in the EAMS, the social medical system here. So we pay for health insurance between the two of us combined less than $600 a year. And then we get sick, we call and set our appointment, and we don't pay anything. There's no copay, there's nothing. Medication is covered for the two of us for about $600 or less a year. Emergency use, we had to go to the emergency room a couple of years ago. My wife was not well, so I took her and checked in, treated her, set up appointments for the following week to come and do more tests and everything. We didn't have to sign out or anything. Just showed them our card, our EAMS card. They wrote down the numbers on their forms. That was it.
Great. Thanks, Leroy.
All right. Thank you.